Today we have a great topic. Barbara Schumacher is leading us in a panel discussion. Barbara Schumacher, who chartered the only club in Gila County last year, has been a District 3 Toastmaster for over 20 years. That's a long time. This morning's webinar is about online meetings, their intangible values, and how you could give a friend a very valuable gift at absolutely no cost to you. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Distinguished Toastmaster Barbara Schumacher.
Well, thank you so much for a lovely introduction, Lisa, and welcome everyone to today's Lunch and Learn session. Find your voice. Don't you have a voice? Don't you know where it is? How do we have to go looking for it? Today, I would like to introduce to you, I just lost my share screen. I am so very sorry. There we go. Our District 3 is presenting a Lunch and Learn webinar, Find Your Voice. And now, why is this not working? I want to thank everyone for joining us. We know your time is precious, and we really and truly appreciate your being here, and very much appreciate our panelists this morning. Let's get to know who they are. Please help me welcome Distinguished Toastmaster Bobby O'Connell. Bobby is a retired business analyst who first joined Toastmasters back in 1993. You think 20 years is a long time? This is wonderful, Bobby. She has served as our spring conference chair, the speakers bureau chair. She's been an area director, the district finance manager, which used to be called the district treasurer, and in many other Toastmaster leadership roles. But since COVID, Bobby has embraced the online environment and frequently takes on the Zoom master role for our club meetings. Now there's a new title, the Zoom master role. We'll talk about that. In Showtime workshops and on other online events. Welcome, Bobby. Thank you so much. Our next panelist is Colleen McNeese, soon to be a Distinguished Toastmaster, and is our Lunch and Learn chair. Our Distinguished Toastmaster Lori has not yet joined us, but will be here shortly. And our Distinguished Toastmaster Marilyn Bennett. Marilyn, I apologize for that. Marilyn has been a member of Toastmaster for over 20 years also, and as a Distinguished Toastmaster, Marilyn has been the TLI chair for 2 years. Do you know what TLI is? That's Toastmasters Leadership Institute. She mentored and coached many new clubs over these past years and believes it is the responsibility of all of us to help our clubs remain flexible and be dedicated to each other, our members. She has been active in District 3 for many years as a Pathways guide prior to the Pathways rollout. Marilyn is also a member of Showtime Toastmasters, which is a 100% online club. I find online environment exciting and full of opportunity, and know the best is yet to come, is a direct quote from Marilyn. Welcome, everyone, our panelists, please, and thank you. The definition of find one's voice. Finding your voice is to begin speaking, even if it's an impromptu speech. Just think about it for a second, and the first thing that comes to mind, tell us about it. A good example is I couldn't speak for a moment, but then I found my voice. And Toastmasters can help you find your voice so that you can speak better and have better communication skills and learn how to listen as well, because part of communication is listening. Finding your voice is to be able to express yourself. Find your voice. Toastmasters International can most definitely help with that. Our online meetings always provide great opportunities, but why are meetings important, Bobby?
So I think online meetings or hybrid meetings are going to be the new normal. Since COVID, everyone was forced to make that transition. And now I think companies and organizations around the world have actually embraced it to a certain extent. And I think we're going to see lots more online meetings.
Thank you very much. Hi, Lori.
Hi.
Welcome, Lori, to our panel. Distinguished Toastmaster Lori Carr joined Toastmasters in 1989. Wow, even before Bobby. She retired from the Prescott Valley VA Medical Center, where she worked as a medical records file clerk and also a human resources assistant. Lori finds that virtual meetings give us options that we did not have before. While we're talking about that, Lori, would you please tell us what you mean by options we didn't have before?
Well, we can attend a lot of meetings that we would not have attended simply because they're too far away. For example, one of my meetings is Think Tank, and it used to take about 3 hours driving just to attend that meeting. And that was when it was in the northern part of the valley. And so also for TLI and other trainings, you can get people to attend from all over the district without having to spend several hours driving. So you get a lot of people who simply would not drive that far.
Some of the virtues of an online meeting are self-evident. We can save money on gas. We can save time, not only driving to the meetings, but also getting really spruced up before the meeting comes along. And the club saves money too, because if there's no venue, then we probably don't have to pay rent for a room unless it's already been donated at no cost to us anyway. And there's more opportunity for club growth, just as Lori said. People who don't live anywhere near where your club normally meets can join your club online, and we make new friends. Marilyn, can you tell us how online meetings have added any value to our clubs?
Well, I can offer an opinion anyway. I think one of the things that has become very important in our world today is the ability to be able to communicate through and within a virtual environment. Businesses are going in that direction. Telemeds with your doctor is becoming more and more common.
Sure
to be comfortable in a virtual environment, I think is almost going to require that we have some format where we can learn how to do that. And I believe that by instituting that into our clubs, it truly helps our members become much more comfortable in that environment.
Thank you. I agree 100%. How will Toastmasters help my public speaking skills? Public speaking skills? I only talk to my family or my doctor or the cashier at the store. Please tell us what you think about that, Colleen.
Thank you. Yes. How does it help you speak publicly? Anybody watch the news lately or sports broadcasters? Maybe don't you just want to throw something a Toastmasters card to them. It helps you polish yourself. I see it as polishing me and others because they don't have to have their ears tortured with those awful sentences. I never thought I'd say this about English, as I did not like English as a little girl in school, but it has really changed my life. Publicly speaking to a cashier or anyone, intelligently thinking before you speak. And it also teaches you how to listen. Doesn't that help your public speaking skills when you sound more professional when you speak, not stumbling over your own tongue? And sometimes my mind is already formatting the answer to someone else speaking, and I need to slow it down and listen. Listen is an important skill that I've learned in Toastmasters, instead of just letting those rambling thoughts fall out of my tongue. And some of those shouldn't be said. I need to hold them back. So I've really enjoyed my years in Toastmasters and helping others improve their public speaking skills. When we retire, it gives us an avenue to share the stories. Every person has beautiful stories within themselves. They may not even know it, but to pull them out. What was life like back in the 50s or 40s? Telling those stories, that just makes everyone a storyteller. And to tell a story with the skills that Toastmasters creates just makes it sweet and not stumbling.
Thank you very much. Bobby, what would you say about how membership in Toastmasters allows for unlimited personal growth?
I think, simply put, the more people there are in our individual clubs, the more people we have to learn from. I personally enjoy hearing everyone's stories. We get to know each other through our speeches, through the before and after meeting chat time, and we have that online as well as in person. And so I just love learning about other people, and the more I see others perform when they're presenting speeches or even just talking and chatting, I can learn so much from other people. And that's one of the reasons I stay in Toastmasters, is because of the people, the friends I've made over the years. And the more we learn from each other, the more we grow.
Absolutely. One of my personal growths is to take a couple seconds and listen a little more closely. Sometimes people want to say something and they're thinking about what they're going to say while the other person is still talking. That isn't really listening. If you really take the time to listen to what someone is saying and then wait a couple seconds, you can give a much more appropriate answer because you have had a better chance to fully understand what the person is saying. I'm still working on that. Sometimes I wait 2 or 3 seconds and that isn't long enough. I'm still a little too quick to answer sometimes. How can Toastmasters give me a competitive edge when I'm looking for a new job, Marilyn?
I don't know. I don't look for jobs now. Well, obviously, one of the best aspects of Toastmasters when it comes to job seeking and interviewing is table topics. If you can come up with a good table topics response, you can probably answer any interview question out there.
Yes, that's true. And in Toastmasters, we are a mutually supportive environment in all of our clubs. So if you announce ahead of time that you're going to be interviewing for a particular job at the XYZ company, I can bet you dollars to donuts that your club will allow you a mock trial event of an interview and help you practice for that interview. We've mentioned before about gaining members who don't live in the immediate area, but did you know that Toastmasters International has a vice president of public relations online meeting email template? You can use it. You can find it under resources, copy it to Word, tweak it so that your information, your club name, your contact info, everything else is in that letter, and it can go out to whatever company you want or whatever individual you want. And don't forget the values of social media. You can use Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want, and just let people know we're here in town. We're right beside you. And anyone is welcome to join us from across the sea as well. Don't forget to run an ad in your local newspaper. They have free advertising available to organizations that are nonprofit, like churches, for example, and the Rotary Club. You can put your Toastmasters, I almost said Payson, I'm sorry. You can put your Toastmasters ad in the newspaper. We have one in Payson in the Roundup that runs almost every Friday for our club, and we get people calling me to say, tell me about this. Are you looking at the Toastmaster magazines? They're online in a digital format, obviously, but the older ones, the ones that are really valuable, are still there too. For example, a value of a virtual meeting is relationships from around the world, and you can even have a mentor from other parts of the world. And here's a lady who tells about being a former Toastmaster, and she came back. She missed it. She knew that she was learning at Toastmasters about herself and about how to communicate with other people better. Toastmasters.org is your friend. There is so much information there. You will never be able to go through the whole website in one day. Right now, the store is closed until the 22nd. So there's a few things that you can't get at right now, but it'll be back. And in the meantime, there's a lot there, like the resources side, where you can see what's going on. You can even look at Leadership Central and then go over to Club Central and look at your DCP chart for your club and find out how you're progressing. Did you know that World Headquarters gives you articles on running a successful hybrid club meeting, on traditional meeting roles? And someone just a little while ago, we talked about Bobby. Tell us what a Zoom master is.
So in the clubs that I belong to, we have a special functionary role for the person who's basically going to be in charge of the technology for the meeting. So they get online early to open the Zoom session, and then you have to pre-register for our club. So, excuse me, that person will let people into the meeting once they arrive. And during the meeting, they also control other functions. For example, we vote for best speaker, best evaluator, and best table topic. And the Zoom master sets up and runs the polls during the meeting. So there's just a variety of things that the Zoom master can do. And it probably varies a little bit from club to club.
Yes, some clubs have the sergeant at arms, for example, let people in the meeting and open it up for the president. Marilyn, what's a virtual evaluator?
Well, I was hoping you would bring that up. When Showtime decided to go 100% online, we decided that there were some aspects to being in a virtual environment that we could use our format for to help our members learn more about that environment. And one of the things that we developed was what we call a virtual evaluator. They're the ones who monitor everyone in the gallery. They look to see, are you framed well? Is your lighting good? Are you coming across well? Is there a problem with your connection? Anything that is connected with the, in our case, Zoom meeting, is what they would look at on an individual basis. And because of that, we have seen tremendous improvement in almost every single one of our members. Bobby and Barbara can both testify to that. So we've seen people who have learned how to frame themselves better, how to close in on their camera so that they can be seen and they're not in the next room. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful functionary role that is almost necessary for virtual environments when you have your meetings there.
Thank you. Marilyn, I'm going to ask you one more question. Was there a comment at Showtime the other night about someone using a monitor? Or am I confusing clubs? No, I don't mean a computer monitor.
Cynthia is using an additional monitor for her prompter when she is putting up her notes and that type of thing. So she literally has had to balance herself with the camera and where her notes are. And that can be a bit of a juggling challenge, but we're going to work with her on that as well. So yeah, you absolutely remember correctly, Barbara.
Thank you, Marilyn. That's a brand new idea for us just within the last month, I would say, that I'm sure other people have thought of and are using, but to us, it's a new concept that we're beginning to get used to because, as you all know, the paper shuffle is not easy to do when you're trying to deliver a speech. And in a club meeting, when you stand up in front of a room, you're used to speaking without notes anyway. But when you're in an online meeting, somehow we need the notes because there's just too much all around us and we're handling too many things all at once. So technology is a very, very big thing. Lisa and Lori, do you have any additional comments about this before we move to the next slide? Oh, Bobby, yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'd just like to share that one of the things that I've recently learned personally from the virtual evaluator in our club, and that's about the glare from glasses. Because I've had that problem for a long, long time. And finally, one of our members suggested that I tilt the arms of my glasses higher instead of sitting on my ear. Now I have them pointing upward and it tilts the angle of my glasses down and you see much less glare. So that's a great little tip that I personally learned from our virtual evaluator.
Absolutely. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Do you know that there are articles in Toastmasters magazines about looking your best when delivering a speech online? That's particularly important in content. We are all in this together. And you make a difference in your family, at work, and in your community, and to the whole world. So online meetings can be a very valuable tool. Toastmasters benefits every member continuously, like the number pi. It just goes on. You never get enough. And if you join thinking that you will stay until you've learned everything, you'll never leave because there's always something new and we improve every week. Online meetings prevent us from becoming stagnant, from doing the same thing constantly. It helps us stay mentally alert, and it gives us a connection with other people. So we're socially connected as well. The reasons that you joined Toastmasters so there's no real legitimate excuse for not doing an online meeting because all the values are still right here. And we use the online meetings because we didn't want to give up and we knew we were smart enough to find a way to adapt to a current condition like a pandemic, which is pretty darn serious. My master taught me how to speak when I was just a pup, joined Toastmasters. I'm going to take a small break here and ask the panelists to just jump in. And I also want to introduce you to Lisa Raymond. Lisa, I did not intentionally overlook you, but I realized I had not introduced you. Would you please tell the world who you are?
Hi, I'm Lisa Raymond. I'm a Toastmaster in my home club, Remarkable Speakers. I've been in Toastmasters since August of 2014.
And now you are the TLI chair, I believe?
The outgoing education for TLI, I guess, which again, as you pointed out, is our Toastmasters Leadership Institute for club officers and future club officers to come learn new things, either about their role or what they can do to help in the district, or just fine-tuning their speech and leadership.
It's awesome. Lori, do you have any additional comments you would like to make about online meetings?
Yes, as someone else pointed out, online meetings are here to stay. I think there are a lot of people, especially people in my age group, who simply don't like the technology, don't like it for anything. And my observation is that people who have used it in their work in the business area are the ones that are more likely to be comfortable with it. So I'm not sure exactly what the answer is for people who simply are not used to technology. The younger people, for them, it's just a way of life.
Yes.
Barbara, can I just add something there? I'm going to play on top of Lori.
Yes.
Showtime actually went hybrid because I was traveling the country. I was a member of Showtime for a lot of years, and I didn't want to give up my membership, but I had retired, and we sort of had a little discussion and they found out they had the equipment so that they could go ahead and project. They literally projected the meeting from the room that they were meeting in so that I could be there to attend. And what I learned through that process was that the more you use it, the easier it gets to use. So,
absolutely.
And then when we went to 100% online, I thought that was great because then I didn't have to drive anymore. So, and I know Bobby felt the same way about the driving. So, but it's really a case of be open to it, use it. And if you don't like it after it's kind of like mushrooms. If you don't like them after you try it, okay, but at least try it first. You know?
Absolutely. And it does get easier and easier and easier each time you use it. That's absolutely true. Yes, Colleen.
Yes, our club, Remarkable Speakers, has been hybrid almost from the day one because we have members from Utah. And I also joined Saguaro Toastmasters, which is a 6-hour drive one way. I appreciate the hybrid. Look at the gas prices. We're saving money, folks.
Yep, we sure.
And we never have to get out of our pajamas in the morning if you want to.
Yeah, we do. Come on.
Oh, yes, we do. But as long as you're not that man on the commercial running around in his undies, we're good.
You had to bring that up, really.
Yeah, I guess. But no, I find virtual meetings, we're finding ways to be creative with our coffee mugs, telling people they're on mute. That was one of our first things we had problems with. We made our counter a listener as well. And we go for the best listener award. I don't know if you can see that. I probably have to remove my virtual background. But that way they have to ask 2 or 3 questions of the group and can win the best ear. You are a spark plug was another thing that we really like to give a spark plug award. I know a lot of clubs do these things. We use the wheel of names sometimes for our table topics, which was just so much fun. And the Pay It Forward program, you can earn money for your club by visiting other clubs. And I turned 65 this year, so I was trying to visit 65 clubs to make the number, the magic number. And the other clubs can win little cameras for their remote, or if they're just going hybrid or other things, once the store opens back up, that is. But there's a lot of people out there that can help with the hybrids. And with people that don't like hybrids, it takes a lot of hand holding. Lisa and I have found that out. Just guide them through. As I worked with FEMA as a national trainer for the United States, every time a system would change, we were training over again and again. But they'll get it if you just hang on to them and don't let go, because they have, like Bobby was saying, such wonderful stories to share. We just can't give up and we don't. Toastmasters is so flexible, and I steal ideas from any of you all that have different ideas to share about what to do in the club to make it more exciting or fun. That's what I was thinking about, Barbara.
You're absolutely right, because it's just like riding a bicycle or typing or anything, or even learning how to drive a car. Anything you learn, anything you know how to do really well right now, was once brand new to you, and you didn't succeed the very first time out, probably. So it's just, an online meeting is just like learning anything else. You just try and keep practicing, and all of a sudden it's as easy as getting up in the morning. It's just awesome. Bobby, did you have your hand up a minute ago?
Yes, I wanted to add something. Marilyn talked about Showtime being hybrid, and that was pre-COVID. And then once COVID hit, we were really happy about that, because then it allowed us to be 100% online. And previously, there was a problem with that. If a club was 100% online, you couldn't be a member of a district. But
Yes.
the board of directors voted a couple of years ago now, and they've decided that online clubs can now be part of a district, which means we don't miss out on the Toastmasters leadership training. We don't miss out on the contests. So it's wonderful. And that was what prompted Showtime to become a 100% online club. And then I also wanted to add, I just love going to a club called Blarney Toastmasters over in Ireland. I so enjoy those accents. It thrills me every time I go.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. And some of those members come here to our clubs in the States as well. It's really awesome. There are so many advantages of online meetings, and I really suspect we're going to know more about them than we already do. I am going to try to share my screen again. I somehow lost my slideshow. And there we go.
Barbara, if I can interject.
Yes, please.
We had 3 questions in the chat, 2 of them that I was able to answer while you were presenting, but for the sake of our audience who is audible, I'd like to go ahead and review them.
Oh,
One
yes, please.
one was where to find the resources section for the online meeting email template. Now that went in our chat, and I'll make that available for our videographer to put in the notes section below the video. Can someone on the panel or yourself then tell people where to find that at?
Yes, would anyone like to answer that? Okay, if you go to World Headquarters website and you sign in, well, actually, probably don't even have to sign in, right along the bar, right underneath where it says Toastmasters and the invitation to log in, towards the right-hand side, just a little tiny bit right of center, there's a tab called resources, and you just click on that and it will give you a bunch of things. Another thing you can do, up in the very top right hand side, there's a little white space where you can key in a word. If you have a word that refers to a question, like resources or like how to do something, that will populate a list of things that you can look at. But that's where you can find all these resources. And there's also a magazine tab there so that you can look at current and past magazines and read all the articles that are in there. As I said before, you can't do this in a day. There's a tremendous amount of valuable information there, and that's where you find it.
That's
Lisa,
great
what was the
information.
next question?
The second question was, do you recommend Zoom registration processes for online guests? And that is dependent on each club. It also, from our experience, depends whether or not they have the waiting room activated, which we always have recommended. Having said that, my club violates that. We don't, I don't think, but it happens. We haven't had anything weird happen yet, which is really good, but we've also been very lucky. We don't publicize our meeting link to avoid the Zoom bombers. So for you and your guests, do you recommend a Zoom registration process for an online meeting?
I would.
Yes, Marilyn, go ahead.
Well, the reason that I say I would is because you have a way to get to your guest contact information so that you can follow up with them. We don't have sign-in books anymore, folks. So Zoom registration is our sign-in book. And by having that, we've got their email. We can follow up on with them, get their feedback if that's what we want, or just invite them to another meeting, or in the case of Showtime, our workshops. So I would definitely always recommend having them register, not because it's necessarily security, but definitely because that information is so critical.
Okay, terrific. And the third question that was there, Barb, for you and your guests, is there an instruction on how to do that with Zoom? Now, the only thing I found on Toastmasters was the graphics that they can use to make their registration page and whatnot. To your point, Marilyn, what we did in our club is I stole an idea from another club and made a Google form for an online guest book. So that way we could capture their information, just have them filled out, and then the officers had access to that. But is there instructions out there where someone can learn how to build that registration page?
It's on Zoom's website.
Okay, I'll go track it down while Barb takes back the meeting.
I am so glad I called on you, Marilyn, and that you spoke about capturing that information from guests as well as our members, because that is very true. We no longer have a guest book for people to sign in, and I have lost my place here. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to run through this real fast to catch up where I was. This is where we left off. And then Lori spoke, and she wasn't, she needed to unmute. That was, that was a little tiny thing that happens from time to time in an online meeting. We put ourselves on mute and we forget to unmute. I try, if I know that I'm going to speak next, I try to have my mouse hovering over that button so that I can click on it when the other person stops speaking and be ready right then and there. That avoids dead air. But you know what? These little things like that, they're nothing. There's nothing there to complain about. Because it's just like driving down a road and all of a sudden you have to slow down because the car in front of you just stopped for no reason. You have to be ready for these things, and there's pointless to do anything other than laugh at them. But we not only need to unmute when we are on mute and it's our turn to speak, we need to just unmute and find our voice again, because when we are in an online meeting, we have a lot of fun. We continue to learn.
But the comment I would make is, we've often heard the expression that the good is the enemy of the best, meaning that we shouldn't settle for something less than our best effort. But I would reverse that from this. The best is the enemy of the good. Through technology, through online, through Zoom meetings, we can have good meetings. it may not be the best experience in terms of being in the same room with people, but we shouldn't let that keep us from doing Zoom meetings.
Yes, I totally agree. Thank you all so very, very much for being with me this morning. It's a wonderful day in the morning when I get to look at all of you and hear your voices and talk with you about whatever. You have great virtual backgrounds, all of you. I'm struggling with mine. That's a constant problem for me. You see, I have a very old computer and it will not accept my virtual backgrounds. So I have to make sure that my office looks presentable and that I look as presentable as I can every time that I come online. It isn't always a success, and it's always different, but it is what it is for the time being. Yes, Marilyn.
I just wanted to add, I get tired of being eaten by my virtual backgrounds. That's why I don't have one today. I was like this when I tried it, and I thought, no, not going to do it.
Well, I think you look great.
Thank you.
There's no problem with that. I would love to have the backgrounds that Lisa is using right now. I actually have them, but I can't use them on this particular machine.
And I purchased 2 green screens, and it doesn't help. My fingers still disappear sometimes. If I move too quickly, I'm a ghost image. So you want to be careful with those green screens.
Let's talk about that for just a minute. It's particularly important if you're in a contest. Bobby, maybe you can help with this. When you're in a contest, you need a nice background that doesn't interfere with you as you're presenting. And of course, we all know about the arms being outside the framework and all of that. But how, if you're using a virtual background like Lisa's, do you manage things and avoid those movement blurs in and out that Colleen was just mentioning?
Wow. So for a contest, I actually would recommend that you don't use a virtual background. You're better off finding some way to rig up a sheet or something, something behind you, or find a plain wall. And me personally, I always like it when I see maybe a plant or something sort of soft and mellow. Other people think that that's distracting, so it's a matter of personal taste. And I'm also aware of one speaker, a contest speaker, who has 2 bookcases that sit kind of on the edge of his background. And that's how he can sort of tell where he's at in the Zoom frame as he's standing there presenting a speech. And that's actually something else. I think every contest speaker that I've ever seen has stood up back from the screen so that you have the opportunity to use more gestures. But again, I would not recommend using a virtual background for a contest speech.
If I recall right, last contest season, they didn't even allow virtual backgrounds. It wasn't a choice. You could not use one.
And you need to consider people's space, because some people, right behind them is a wall. They stand up and they're in the wall. And there's not much room for movement in these romper room squares. Well, you remember that song, Romper, Bumper, Bumper, Boo?
This is my cabinet. So this setup would not work for a contest. So.
And I just really want to thank all of the panelists. This has really been an exciting meeting, and I'm glad we're going to share this on YouTube later. A lot of people can't always come at the 11:30 to 12:30, but they come on and watch it later. Their last gal had 1,300 hits on her YouTube video later.
Wow.
So that is in the chat for you today. But I really want to say a huge, huge thank you to Barbara for putting this together. So many people can use this and learn from it. And we should use it at TLI. It's just amazing, because we're all struggling with as they start going to hybrid and coming back online. This Lori, Marilyn, Bobby, Lisa, thank you. And our guests that are online behind the screen.
Yes.
Huge thank you. Please share the link with your friends and clubs. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Barbara, sincerely.
Thank
She
you.
stepped up
Colleen.
last
Lisa.
minute to do this.
Okay. Lisa, what were you saying, dear, before you froze?
Yeah, I didn't know if that was on my end or the host. I apologize. When we're looking at practice, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. When you're practicing for either a speech contest or just giving a presentation, either for your boss or your club, make sure you practice with the device you're using and possibly a backup one, because everything from your phone to your tablet to newer laptops now react differently. And the first few speeches I heard when we went online, people were standing back in their space, Marilyn, they were shouting because they didn't know for sure if their internal microphone would pick up. If you practice that, even just a short recording of what you're doing, you'll be able to see where your space is here and how you sound, or whether or not you need a sound boost. Like I'm the only one here with a headphone with a boom mic, but that way I know I can be heard without having to shout around the room.
Get a lavalier mic.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even expensive. You can get them on Amazon.
Yes, they are.
I have a podcast mic. I just haven't plugged it in here yet.
And every Toastmaster should have one of the free Zoom accounts so that you can practice before Zoom and record yourself and see how you look before you do your actual presentation at the club meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you. Lori,
Yes,
what do you think about this meeting today? And do you think it's beneficial?
I think this is very helpful. I think a lot of people, when they Zoom in and they see it later, will get a lot out of it, and hopefully we will get more people participating in Zoom meetings or in hybrid meetings. People who were reluctant to do so before.
Yes, absolutely. And that was the whole point. Of course, the people who have said no probably aren't watching this, but those of us who are can tell other people they know who are not using Zoom about it, and then they can watch this in their own leisure, in their own comfort, and maybe rethink a situation. Because you're right, Bobby, those were excellent tips. And one of you, it may have been Bobby, someone said Zoom meetings are here to stay, and that's so true. And you're right about even a doctor consultation on Zoom, because I had one just last week. I couldn't believe it. It was on a Zoom account. And then we were chatting with each other before we decided where we would go from there. So it's absolutely outstanding. And it's all brand new technology that's perfectly safe and secure. And I want to take this extra little minute to thank every single one of you. Colleen, thank you so much. Bobby, thank you, dear, so much. Marilyn, thank you. Lori, thank you. Lisa, thank you for allowing us to do this today. I think it's just wonderful. And to all our guests, because there are more people online than we have here in this room right now watching, I thank you so much. We know your time is valuable and precious to you, and we thank you so much for participating in this meeting. Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much for being with us today.